All right, welcome to part two of your slides. So in part one, we got done talking about the 2.5 hours with the process of hydration and why that's important. And again, using this 2.5 hours to judge when you're quitting and when lunchtime is, because you don't want mortar sitting around not being used. So on this, these 2 points are important. So when mortar is drying out, only add as much water has been lost from evaporation. There are people who do that, but depending on the job, you are not allowed to. There are certain instances where you are allowed to, but then there's other jobs where you're not. The reason for that is if you have something pre-mixed that's spec mix. So spec mix has a specific amount of water that gets added into it. If you add too much water to it, you change the strength of the mortar. So if it's an engineered mix and they know that they need a certain amount of strength, you can only add a certain amount of water. So the more water you add to it, the weaker your mix gets. So I guess I should have a pen there. More water means less strength. This is why I don't necessarily agree with what the author says here. Um, Again, there are people who do it, but there are instances where you are not allowed to do it. And the same with what they say about it being tempered no more than 2 times. So if you're tempering mortar, that simply means you're adding more water to it to increase the workability. So if it starts getting too set up on you, you add a little bit of water, and then you're able to loosen the mixture a little bit, and it's easier to work with. So these are common problems, whether or not you're using a power mixer or not, that doesn't really matter. There are things that happen. So drowning the mortar, that's if you're adding way too much water. Obviously, it's going to be a weak product, and it makes it like a slurry. It's just gray water, and it doesn't work that well. If you add too much sand, we spoke about that in part one. The right mix is 3 parts of sand to 1 part cement. If you add too much sand, you're not going to get the strength that you need. A fat mortar is one that has too much cement in it, and that's a lot harder to work with. It sets up a lot faster. A lean mortar, again, that's one that has too much sand, and not enough cement in it. This one we won't really worry about. That's not too bad. Materials are pretty good now. Working in cold weather, if this was a masonry class, we would go more into what you need, but you really don't. Um, I'd say two more terms that I would add would be a mix that's tight, and that means you need more water, and then a mix that's loose, which it's way too wet to use. So tight means needs more water. Loose, too much water. If you guys have any questions, make sure to ask, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So, until next week, see you guys. Have fun, enjoy yourselves, and stay safe.